I didn't know what had happened. What I'd landed on wasn't flat, it was sloped on each side, and I was sliding in the dark.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 people who survived insane falls. For this list, we'll be looking at individuals who found themselves in dire straits a long way from the ground, but through ingenuity, perseverance, or just plain luck, they lived to tell the tale. Planned stunts like Felix Baumgartner's space jump are not included. These are stories of survival against all odds. Think we missed another notable survivor of an insane fall? Tell us about it in the comments.
It could be that I crashed into them and my seat spun around. And with the seat under me, I fell through this thicket and then, relatively softly, quote-unquote, struck the ground.
Number 10. James Boole.
As he plunged, he was supposed to get a signal from the other man to open his parachute, but he pulled the cord way too late.
An experienced skydiver, James Boole specialized in filming while jumping for movies and documentaries. But even an expert sometimes makes mistakes. In 2009, Boole jumped out of a plane flying 6,000 feet over Russia. Focused on getting a great shot, he missed the signal to deploy his parachute, and by the time he realized it, it was too late. Boole crashed into a snowbank at about 90 miles per hour.
He fell 6,000 feet when his parachute didn't open properly. It was only because he landed in powdery snow that his life was saved.
To his amazement, he was still alive, though in pain from a broken back and a punctured lung. Boole ended up making a complete recovery and said that while he didn't intend to give up skydiving entirely, he was going to stop filming at the same time.
He admits his knees were knocking, but he took the leap anyway.
And that sounds like a smart call. Number 9. Roger Woodward.
It didn't register to me that I was heading to fall into this gorge.
Young Roger was only 7 in 1960 when he and his sister went for a boat ride on the upper Niagara River with an adult family friend. They went downstream for a while, and then the older man decided to go back. But as the small boat turned, its motor stopped. The boat capsized, and they were thrown into the water, the current driving them toward Horseshoe Falls. Roger's sister managed to get near the shore and was helped out. The other two were not so lucky. They went over the waterfall and dropped 170 feet. The family friend drowned, but Roger survived, becoming the first person to go over Horseshoe Falls without a barrel and live.
I had gone through a moment just prior to that where I had realized that I was going to die. And even as a 7-year-old kid, my life passed before me. And at that moment, I just fell into a cloud.
Number 8. Ivan Chisov. Lieutenant Colonel Chisov served as a navigator on a Soviet bomber in World War II. When his airplane was shot and disabled by German fighters, Chisov jumped out. He had a parachute, but he was afraid that if he opened it too soon, he would be an easy target for enemy aircraft. So he decided to wait a few more seconds and then promptly passed out from the lack of oxygen. His parachute never deployed. Chisov plummeted 23,000 feet and landed on a snow-covered slope. The absorbency of the snow and the fact that the incline redirected his energy may have saved his life. Or maybe he was just super tough because he was back in action within 3 months. Number 7. Shayna Richardson.
Shayna's life now depends on a reserve chute.
I real slowly just looked up, kind of holding my breath, wondering, is this going to be any better?
Shayna Richardson had about the worst possible luck on her first skydiving jump alone. She had already gone skydiving frequently with her boyfriend, but soon after the solo jump from 10,000 feet, Richardson spun out of control. A toggle was broken in her main parachute. She cut the lines and deployed a reserve parachute, which failed to open properly. Richardson fell helplessly at great speed until she landed headfirst on asphalt. Incredibly, she survived.
When you got to Shayna, what were you thinking?
Oh, I was pretty much in shock. As I run up to her, my legs were weak.
She was in shock,
well,
right?
she was in shock. Yeah, she was face down, blood everywhere.
Though she was seriously injured, she also got a surprise in the hospital. She had been 2 weeks pregnant without knowing it. The baby ended up being okay too. So if Richardson had terrible luck during the jump, at least it turned around afterwards.
I said, okay, Lord, it is my time to come home. Just please do not make this hurt.
Number 6. Joe Simpson.
The fact that you are tied to your partner means that You put an immense amount of trust in someone else's skill and ability.
Joe Simpson and his partner Simon Yates were descending a perilous mountain in the Andes when Simpson fell over a cliff and fractured his leg. They attached themselves together with a rope for security, but then Simpson stumbled into a crevasse. He hung there powerless as Yates tried to pull him back up. He couldn't do it.
I was trying to get my axes to see if I could to reach this wall that was out there. I think as almost as I started to try and do that, I started being lowered again. And I was thinking, Christ, don't do it, because I knew that there wasn't enough rope.
After an hour of struggle, Yates felt he had no choice. He cut the rope, sending his partner plummeting to almost certain death. But Simpson survived. However, he was trapped in the crevasse and unable to walk, so he crawled painfully for 4 days, frozen and famished, before finally making it to base camp. Yates was still there, and Simpson was saved.
He, thanked me for trying to get him down the mountain, for all that I'd done up to the point where I'd cut the rope, and he said, and he said to me, I'd have done the same. Those were the first words he uttered to me.
Number 5. Juliane Diller.
It didn't matter much to me. At the time, I still enjoyed flying, but my mother was somewhat anxious when she saw the storm front approaching.
In the case of Dr. Juliane Diller, née Kopka, the fall was just the beginning. She and her mother were flying to the Amazon rainforest when the wing of their plane was struck by lightning. The airplane tore apart at almost 10,000 feet, and Diller fell, blacking out before she hit the ground.
I struggled to my knees, and then it got so black in front of my eyes that I had to lie down again. The concussion must have been very severe. After a while, I managed to sit up, and then I discovered the injuries I had suffered.
When she awoke, she was alone in the Peruvian jungle. No one else had survived. Her collarbone was broken, and she had no food. Insects swarmed around her, infesting her injuries. After 11 days, Diller finally found a camp of forest workers who helped her get medical treatment, but without her parents' training on how to survive in the jungle, she would have probably never made it.
But 3 days after the crash, I suddenly heard these calls, and I thought, this is my salvation, because wherever those birds are, there must be a larger body of water. I immediately changed direction and headed straight for those calls.
Number 4. Nicholas Alkemade. Nicholas Alkemade was a gunner in the British Royal Air Force during World War II. One night, as his bomber airplane was returning from a mission, it got blown off course right into German anti-aircraft territory. The plane was hit and burst into flames. Alkemade went for his parachute, but it was already on fire, so he just jumped out. He fell 18,000 feet, losing consciousness along the way. When Alkemade came to, he was lying in the snow under a forest of pine trees. He'd been burned and his knee was sprained, but that was all. When he got picked up by the Nazis, they refused to believe his story until they found the wreckage of the airplane and Alkemade's scorched, unopened parachute. Number 3. Steve Fawcett.
My spirits go exactly with the prospects of success of this flight. Things were looking bad there in the Indian Ocean. Now they look good, so I'm in very good spirits.
Steve Fawcett was an adventurer, pilot, and aeronaut who made history in 2002 by traveling around the world alone in a hot air balloon. Before that, though, he had a few mishaps, like the time in 1998 when his balloon got sucked into a thunderstorm over the Coral Sea. Flying at 30,000 feet, the balloon was ripped to shreds by the wind and hail.
My past experience, so long as I was clearing the thunderstorm, clearing the top of the cloud, that was sufficient. The first indication of problem came when the balloon entered a descent of 500 feet a minute.
Fawcett tried to slow his descent by jettisoning weight, but in a matter of seconds, the balloon capsule hit the sea and began to sink. Fawcett dove through the hatch and managed to escape. Incredibly, he suffered no severe injuries from the fall. Fawcett believed his quick unloading before impact might have saved him, but no one knows for sure.
What now? What are you going to do now? What's the next challenge?
I'm not sure. I have to think about that.
but inevitably there will be something else.
Number 2. William Rankin. U.S. Marine pilot William Rankin was flying his jet at 47,000 feet when the engine suddenly failed. He had no choice but to eject into the freezing, nearly airless upper atmosphere. As Colonel Rankin fell, decompression caused his ears, nose, and eyes to bleed, and his skin burned with frostbite. Then, his parachute automatically deployed in the middle of a raging thunderstorm. Heavy rain nearly drowned him, while thunder and lightning seemed inches away. Worst of all, violent winds trapped him inside the storm, throwing him around wildly and preventing his descent. Rankin finally made it out and landed. He had been in the air for 40 minutes. Afterward, he became known as the man who rode the thunder. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Vesna Vulovic. Vesna Vulovic holds the current world record for surviving the longest fall without a parachute. Vulovic was a stewardess on an airplane which was flying 33,000 feet over the Czech Republic when it exploded from a bomb in the luggage compartment.
The story goes that a flight attendant was on a plane in which a bomb went off, and she survived the fall from 33,000 feet without a parachute. They found her on the ground still strapped into her flight attendant's seat in the wreckage of the rear of the plane.
No one else survived, but a nearby villager heard screams and found Vulovic trapped in the wreckage. She had many serious injuries, but eventually recovered. The only permanent damage Vulovic sustained was a limp caused by spine trauma. Scientists have been debating ever since as to how she could have survived. Like Chisov, she landed on a snowy slope. Like Diller, she was in a mostly intact part of the plane, but those were much lower falls. Vulovic's survival remains a mystery.
It's all about the details, the exact circumstances, what exactly was the section of the tail end of the plane that she was in. How fast are you going in the airplane when you're trying to escape from it with a life raft or whatever.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.